Mystic Sea Dragon Clan's reinforcement. As the God Ascension expert turned to flee, Yuan immediately gave chase. However, being underwater, and with his opponent a native sea beast, Yuan quickly found himself outpaced, the distance between them widening with every passing second. Unable to close the distance, Yuan resorted to mockery, hurling taunts laced with scorn in hopes of provoking his opponent into a reckless, rage-fueled mistake.
You dare call yourself a god when you're running away from a mortal like a frightened cat? Your comrades are still fighting for their lives while you abandoned the battlefield. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Even if you survive, you'll become an object of scrutiny. Damn, look how fast you're going. I can't wait to tell my friends and the rest of the world about this.
The God Ascension expert trembled with a mix of rage and humiliation as Yuan's taunts echoed from behind. He even coughed up a mouthful of blood from the effort of suppressing his fury. But in the end, his fear ran deeper than his pride, leaving him powerless to turn back. However, just as Yuan was about to give up the chase, the man abruptly came to a halt. Yuan stopped as well, but instead of excitement, a deep frown formed on his face, sensing that something wasn't right. Sure enough, moments later, Yuan sensed numerous powerful auras rapidly closing in from the distance.
Ha ha ha. They're finally here. The Mystic Sea Dragon Clan's main army has finally arrived.
The man laughed out loud after realizing what was going on. Yuan had anticipated the possibility of reinforcements arriving, but when he saw just how many powerhouses were converging upon him, he couldn't help but let out a weary smile. With a single glance, Yuan could tell their reinforcements numbered over 300,000. It was a massive army, far larger than the entire reported population of the Mystic Sea Dragon Clan. This could only mean one thing. The Mystic Sea Dragon Clan hadn't come alone and had arrived backed by other forces. It didn't take long for the others to notice the Mystic Sea Dragon Clan's reinforcements. And when the Azure Dragon Clan realized the situation, their expressions turned grim, darkened by a growing sense of dread. Upon seeing their reinforcements arrive, those who had been clinging to life on the battlefield felt a surge of hope, and their morale soared to its peak. The third elder, who had been losing to Jiao Zhenhai, let out a booming laugh.
Ha ha ha. I hope you didn't think we were all you had to deal with because the real fun is only just beginning.
Jiao Zhenhai clenched his fists. He remained silent, but his eyes were filled with despair. Even if his parents showed up right now, they'd still be completely outnumbered by the reinforcements. At the forefront of the massive army stood several figures exuding overwhelming presence, each one a God Ascension realm cultivator ranging from the 1st to the 4th level, their very aura weighing down the atmosphere like a crushing tide. Leading them was a strikingly beautiful woman with silver horns curling from her head and a tail swaying behind her. Her cultivation dwarfed the rest, standing at the 6th level of God Ascension. Sometime later, the army halted before Yuan and the God Ascension realm cultivator.
General Ji, where do you think you're going?
The woman suddenly spoke, her voice calm yet oppressive.
Why are you heading away from the battlefield? That's.
General Ji hesitated, shame flickering in his eyes. He couldn't possibly admit to fleeing from a mere mortal, not in front of so many watchful eyes. Even if he survived today, he would be reduced to nothing but a laughing stock. The woman spoke again.
Is something stuck in your throat, preventing you from speaking? Or are you just too ashamed to admit that you'd run away from the battlefield, from a mortal, no less?
General Ji's entire body trembled the moment he realized the woman had witnessed everything.
My actions are inexcusable, Mystic Empress.
He stammered, dropping to his knees.
I am willing to accept whatever punishment you see fit. Humph. I will deal with you once we return. Until then, stay there and watch how it's supposed to be done. As you wish.
The woman then turned her attention to Yuan with an amused smile tugging at her lips. After a moment of silence, she spoke.
I have lived a long time, but this is my first time seeing a mortal wield celestial chi. You have my admiration and respect. Thank you. My name is Tsang Xuanji, the head of the Mystic Sea Dragon clan, and I have a proposition for you. Instead of fighting for the Azure Dragon clan, who are destined to be destroyed soon, why don't you join my Mystic Sea Dragon clan?
General Ji expressed shock when the Mystic Empress offered Yuan to join their ranks instead of killing him, but he didn't dare utter a sound.
If you serve my Mystic Sea Dragon clan well,
the Mystic Empress said with a faint, amused smile,
I might even consider accepting you into my family, as a concubine.
Yuan couldn't help but chuckle at a random offer.
A concubine, huh? Did you offer the three elders the same thing?
He asked.
What is that bastard saying?
The third elder couldn't believe what he was hearing.
The three elders? They're useful, but ultimately nothing more than tools. You're different. If you desire, I can even dispose of them for you after you join our side. Mystic Empress. That wasn't part of our agreement.
The third elder blurted out in panic, his face draining of color. The Mystic Empress's expression darkened, her gaze turning icy as it locked onto the third elder.
To think you still have the nerve to speak of our agreement,
she said coldly, her voice rising with each word.
Not only have you failed to obtain the tier of the Azure Heavens, but you've also forced us to abandon a plan that took many millennia to perfect, all because of your incompetence. Trash.
With that final word, the Mystic Empress's voice erupted like thunder, unleashing a powerful ripple that swept across the battlefield, shaking the hearts of all who heard it. 1977, the Mystic Empress Rampage. After hearing the Mystic Empress words, the third elder fell silent, no longer daring to utter another word. Instead, he glared at Yuan with a hateful gaze. It was all because of that bastard. If he hadn't shown up, we wouldn't be in this situation. The third elder blamed everything on Yuan, who showed up out of the blue and purified their poison. Unfortunately, the only thing he could do was complain about it. After scolding the third elder for his incompetence, the Mystic Empress returned her attention to Yuan and spoke calmly.
So, what do you think about my offer? I'm flattered by it,
he said.
Unfortunately, I cannot join the Mystic Sea Dragon clan. What is the reasoning behind your decision?
The Mystic Empress asked with narrowed eyes.
First of all, I don't belong to the Azure Dragon clan. What? Then why are you fighting for them? They have something I want, and I am helping them to acquire it. In that case, wouldn't it be better to fight for us? Besides the tier of the Azure Heavens, I can help you get whatever you want after we defeat them. While that does make logical sense, I do not like to take things by force if I don't have to. And while I enjoy fighting, I dislike needless bloodshed. Now allow me to tell you the second reason why I cannot join you. The tier of the Azure Heavens that you're looking for, it no longer exists. What are you talking about?
The Mystic Empress instantly frowned.
It no longer exists because I took it and already absorbed it, so you wasted your time by coming here.
Yuan said. Everyone standing behind the Mystic Empress froze, dumbfounded by Yuan's claim. A heavy silence followed as they exchanged uneasy glances with each other. If what Yuan said was true, they wasted an immense amount of time and resources. The Mystic Empress trembled slightly before speaking in a low voice.
Tell me that you're joking.
Yuan shrugged and said,
We've already tried telling the third elder, but he didn't want to believe us either. I'm sorry, but it's true.
He extended his arm, and with a flicker of will, conjured a beautiful blue flame upon his palm.
This is the heaven-freezing flame that I acquired from consuming the treasure. You wanted it because you knew what it really was, the heaven-chilling ice phoenix's heart, right?
When a Mystic Empress saw the flames flickering above Yuan's palms and heard his words, she trembled again and coughed up a mouthful of blood as numerous emotions surged through her being.
Mystic Empress. You. How dare you?
The Mystic Empress suddenly let out a thunderous roar as her cultivation erupted uncontrollably, surging outward like a tidal wave. The immense force of her outburst instantly swept through the ranks behind her, sending her own army reeling, even damaging many who were unable to withstand the immense power of her uncontrolled pressure.
Do you have any idea what you have done? What I had to sacrifice just to get here?
The Mystic Empress continued to scream, her voice laced with fury and anguish as her mind began to unravel, her composure quickly rumbling under the weight of rage and frustration.
Mystic Empress. Please, you must calm yourself.
The God Ascension cultivators with her pleaded, their voices tinged with urgency and fear.
Calm down. Calm down.
However, it only enraged her even further.
I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you all.
Suddenly, the Mystic Empress shot toward Yuan with blinding speed, so fast that, though his eyes followed her movement, his body couldn't react in time. Her hand clamped around his neck like an iron vice, and in the next instant, she dragged him down in a streak of fury, slamming him violently into the ocean floor with a thunderous crash.
I'll get the tear of the azure heavens even if I have to forcefully remove it from your body.
Even as he was pinned to the ocean floor, Yuan tried to get the Mystic Empress off him by striking her with the Dragon God's vengeance. However, the difference in their celestial chi was simply too overwhelming for Yuan's attacks to have any effect. It was akin to trying to break down a metal door with a toothpick. Suddenly, two figures shot toward them before working together to remove the Mystic Empress from Yuan.
Father. Mother.
Jiao Zhenhai exclaimed after seeing his parents' arrival.
Are you okay?
Jiao Longfei asked Yuan.
Yes. Do you think you can hold her off for a minute? A minute. It'll be difficult, especially when she's like that, but we'll try,
said Jiao Xuanji. The two of them were both at the 5th level of God Ascension realm, but even if they fought together, they wouldn't be able to defeat the Mystic Empress.
How dare you intervene? I'll swallow all of you.
In a flash of divine light, the Mystic Empress transformed into her true form, a majestic silver dragon, radiating an overbearing presence that shook the sea itself. Not daring to underestimate her, Jiao Xuanji and Jiao Longfei responded in kind, assuming their dragon forms without hesitation. Moments later, the three titanic beasts collided, and the sheer force of their clash unleashed violent currents in every direction, hurling nearby cultivators like leaves in a storm. While that happened, Yuan ignored everything around him and focused his attention solely on the Dragon God's vengeance.
Yayo, I need your help. You're the only one who can stop her rampaging.
He sent his voice into the soul weapon, speaking directly to Dragon Goddess Yayo. However, there was no response.
I know you're upset, and I'm sorry, but I could really use your assistance here.
Yuan sighed and continued.
The 9 dragon symbols. I remembered our promise. Although we couldn't fulfill it last time, let's do it properly this time. I promise.
Though Dragon Goddess Yayo didn't speak, the Dragon God's vengeance began to tremble in response. 1978 Absolute Obedience.
Get out of my way, you trash.
Mystic Empress aura exploded further.
At this rate, we won't be able to block her for a single minute.
Jiao Longfei poured all of his celestial chi forward, but quickly crumbled when Mystic Empress struck back.
Damn! When the hell did she become so powerful?
Jiao Xuanji exclaimed as she struggled to keep up.
My treasure. My plans. My future. Ah!
Mystic Empress's rampage grew so uncontrollably violent that both the Azure Dragon Clan and the Mystic Sea Dragon Clan were forced to cease fighting and retreat in a panic. Even the stray wisps of celestial chi erupting from her body were potent enough to kill anyone there instantly, leaving no one willing to remain near her wrath. Suddenly, amidst the chaos and carnage, A profound aura descended upon the ocean like a silent decree from the heavens, vast, unfathomable, and absolute. The raging tides stilled, and even Mystic Empress rampaging celestial chi were forced to disperse.
What is this pressure? This presence? A cultivation god?
Jiao Longfei gasped, his voice trembling with disbelief as he instinctively turned toward the source of the overwhelming aura, eyes wide with awe and fear. Everyone present turned to face the source of the aura, including the Mystic Empress. Though still burning with rage, she found herself unable to express it, as if her very body and instincts had seized control, suppressing her fury out of sheer, primal desperation in the presence of something far beyond her comprehension. Their gazes landed on Yuan, who was standing on the ocean floor with the dragon god's vengeance in his grasp. No, they were all staring at the dragon god's vengeance. In the very next moment, a faint light emerged from within dragon god's vengeance, swiftly expanding until it took the shape of a human figure, divine and ethereal, with a beauty so transcendent it instinctively commanded reverence from all who beheld it. Yet, despite her breathtaking beauty, it was her unfathomable presence that held everyone's attention. Merely standing in her presence compelled all those around her to instinctively seal their cultivation and loosen their stance, as though their bodies moved on their own to show submission and that they meant no harm. Mystic Empress was no exception. Though her heart seethed with reluctance and resistance, her body betrayed her will. Unable to defy the overwhelming pressure of the presence before her, she returned to her human form and lowered herself in submission to Dragon Goddess Yayo. After making an appearance, Dragon Goddess Yayo ignored everyone and calmly approached Mystic Empress.
Hey!
She called out in a nonchalant tone.
Why yes.
Mystic Empress trembled uncontrollably as she responded in a cracked, uneven voice strained by overwhelming fear, feeling like she had suddenly turned into a mortal.
I'm in a good mood right now, so I'll spare you for your insolence. However, my patience is limited, so I'll give you and your minions 10 seconds to disappear from my sight. And don't even think about coming back in the future. Thank you for your mercy.
Without daring to utter a word in defiance, Mystic Empress turned and swiftly swam away like her life depended on it, her once dominant aura now subdued and broken. As for the rest of the Mystic Sea Dragon clan, they didn't need any instructions to fall back. The Azure Dragon clan stood in stunned silence, watching their enemies retreat in haste. The scene felt surreal, like a dream too impossible to be real, leaving them to question whether their eyes were deceiving them. Dragon Goddess Yayo returned to Yuan's side and asked,
Are you satisfied? Or did you want me to kill everyone?
Yuan shook his head and said,
No, this is fine.
He turned to look at Jiao Zhenhai and continued,
Though they may have plotted against the Azure Dragon clan for the tier of the Azure Heavens, this is just the nature of the cultivation world. They were undoubtedly forceful, but so was your aggression toward the Holy Dragon clan, regardless of your reasons. That said, it's not like they received no punishment. Because of their greed, they lost many powerful cultivators and immortals, greatly reducing their influence, and it's not likely they will return since you no longer have what they want.
Yuan agreed to protect the Azure Dragon clan from destruction, which he'd achieved. As for killing everyone from the Mystic Sea Dragon clan, he never considered doing such a thing. If he, a mere human, were to erase one of the 10 royal dragon bloodlines from existence, it would undoubtedly draw even greater trouble upon him in the future than just offending the Mystic Sea Dragon clan. After a moment of silence, Jiao Zhenhai let out a heavy sigh and said,
No, I completely understand. In the end, you're just an outsider who was dragged into our conflict. We have no right to expect you to shoulder such a tremendous burden. You helped us chase away the Mystic Sea Dragon clan just like you promised, and that's more than enough. Even if they return in the future, it's a problem we must deal with ourselves.
Jiao Zhenhai turned to look at the third elder, who had tried to escape with the others but was forced to stay behind, and continued.
As for you, you'll pay for betraying our family for the rest of your miserable life. Please. I was wrong. Have mercy.
Yuan stopped paying attention to them and looked at Dragon Goddess Yayo.
I'd love to fulfill that promise right now, but with your condition like that.
Dragon Goddess Yayo interrupted.
I know, you don't have to say anything. Until I recover my body, we'll put that promise on hold. However, this doesn't mean you can dilly-dally around it.
Yuan nodded and said,
I'll restore your body as soon as possible.
Dragon Goddess Yayo returned to the Dragon God's vengeance, while the rest of the Azure Dragon clan began tending to the aftermath. 1979 Mystic Empress Obsession. While the Azure Dragon clan worked hard to rebuild their destroyed underwater city, much of which was left in ruins by the invasion, Yuan focused on cleansing the lingering poison from the clan's remaining children. Meanwhile, the Mystic Sea Dragon clan did not stop moving at their peak speed until they escaped the water and returned to the surface. Once outside the water, Mystic Empress halted her movements and stared at the empty space before her in silence. The army behind didn't dare to disturb her and patiently waited for her to snap out of it. After a few days of complete stillness, Mystic Empress finally moved again. She took a deep breath before releasing a profound sigh.
The cultivation world is quite brutal.
As the leader of one of the 10 dragon clans bearing a royal bloodline, the Mystic Empress had always believed herself to stand at the very pinnacle of the world. Never had she imagined a day would come when she'd be forced to bow her head and retreat so helplessly. Even now, she would tremble when recalling the presence she felt from Dragon Goddess Yayo. Just who was that woman? I have never felt such fear before. Not even when I stood before the Great One. With her vast influence, the Mystic Empress had crossed paths with most, if not all, of the most powerful beings in the 9 heavens. Yet, not a single one had ever made her feel as utterly powerless as Dragon Goddess Yayo did, and she had done so effortlessly, merely by releasing a sliver of her aura. There's no way such a powerful entity isn't known across the 9 heavens. Somebody must know something about her.
Mystic Empress, what should we do now?
Someone eventually asked, pulling her out of her thoughts. The Mystic Empress turned to look at them and said,
The tier of the Azure Heavens is no more, so the rest of our plan no longer matters. It's unfortunate, but this is the end of our cooperation. If you want to blame the Mystic Sea Dragon clan, me for our incompetence, you're free to do so, but I will not tolerate anyone thinking of coming after my family for this incident. We won't blame you, Mystic Empress. That entity's appearance was completely out of our control. Hell, even if we knew about her existence beforehand, we still wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
Sometime later, the Mystic Sea Dragon clan and the others went their own way. Time flowed like a fleeting stream, and in the blink of an eye, a year had passed since the failed invasion of the Mystic Sea Dragon clan. While everyone tried to move on and forget the incident, one individual had been living a waking nightmare ever since. No matter how desperately she tried to bury the memory, the Mystic Empress could not escape the looming shadow of Dragon Goddess Yayo. The goddess's presence from that day clung to her mind like a curse, and with each passing day, the weight of that humiliation gnawed at her sanity, slowly driving her toward madness. Boom! A thunderous explosion echoed from the Mystic Empress's quarters, followed by a tremor that rippled through the surrounding area. Yet, none of those nearby so much as flinched, as such disturbances had become routine ever since her return. The Mystic Sea Dragon clan tried seeking doctors to help her, but since this was a mental battle, there was nothing the doctors could do but suggest pills that strengthen the mind.
I can't believe a 6th-level god ascension powerhouse like the Mystic Empress still has to deal with heart demons. Heart demons are cruel and merciless. They can bring down even a cultivation god if it gets bad enough. What should we do? We cannot let her get to such a point. No matter how many pills we feed her, her condition hasn't improved. If anything, it has only gotten worse. I'll contact the other clans to see if they have any ideas.
Time continued to pass. Half a year later, several individuals from the other 10 Royal Dragon clans arrived at the Mystic Sea Dragon clan after hearing about the Mystic Empress' unique situation.
How is the Mystic Empress?
Asked a handsome man who had the cultivation at the 7th level of God Ascension. The members of the Mystic Sea Dragon clan explained the situation and their incident with the Azure Dragon clan.
The Mystic Empress with a heart demon.
This news left them stunned, as they were all aware of how strong she was mentally. When they went to speak with the Mystic Empress, they could hear her yelling inside her room from the halls.
Who is she? I need to know.
The guests exchanged glances with each other. Someone from the Mystic Sea Dragon clan explained.
Her fear has turned into some sort of obsession with that entity.
Some time later, they knocked on the door.
Mystic Empress, can we speak to you for a second?
Bang! The doors burst open with a deafening crash, and the Mystic Empress emerged, her once elegant appearance now disheveled, her eyes wild and unfocused, resembling more a madwoman than the regal figure she once was. Before any of the guests could open their mouths, the Mystic Empress suddenly grabbed one of their collars and shouted,
Do you know her? Do you know who she is? Mystic Empress. Snap out of it. It's fine,
said the handsome man she grabbed.
That woman. You want to know her identity, right? Well, I think I have an idea. Who? Who is she? This is merely a guess,
he said slowly, his tone laced with reverence and awe.
But judging by the details of her appearance, I believe she was none other than Dragon Goddess Yayo, one of the 3 dragons of origin. What? Dragon Goddess Yayo? But I thought she died long ago.
The others expressed shock after hearing this. He shook his head and said,
Her death was never confirmed. She'd only gone missing. Dragon Goddess Yayo.
Mystic Empress mumbled with a dazed look on her face. 1982 years later. The Mystic Empress became silent after learning of the identity of the entity who humiliated her. Everything finally made sense to her. If it was one of the dragons of origin, it was only natural that she was hopeless before such an entity.
If Dragon Goddess Yayo has truly returned, this is huge news,
said one of the guests. The others nodded in agreement.
Who knows how everyone will react, especially the Great One. The Great One will probably be shaking in excitement once he hears of her return. He's always fancied Dragon Goddess Yayo but never had any success because of the Immortal Monarch. Now with the Immortal Monarch gone, he'll definitely try again. The 9 heavens will probably get rowdy for some time. Mystic Empress, are you okay?
The handsome man asked her a moment later.
Yes. Thank you for telling me her identity, or I would have been consumed by it,
she said.
Please, you don't need to thank me. It's not guaranteed that she's really Dragon Goddess Yayo either. No, there's no doubt that she's definitely Dragon Goddess Yayo,
she said firmly.
Aside from the Great One, I've never experienced such instinctive fear, not even close. If the legends are true, that Dragon Goddess Yayo is stronger than even the Great One, then it would make sense.
She turned to look at the others, and said,
I need to rest. Sorry for worrying you guys, even making you waste your time by coming here. Since we got to see your face, it wasn't a waste,
laughed the handsome man. The Mystic Empress smiled, and said,
Once I recover, I'll invite you guys again.
Her guests left shortly after, and the Mystic Empress entered seclusion. As time passed, rumors of Dragon Goddess Yayo's return began making their way across the 9 heavens. However, this rumor was so far-fetched that almost nobody believed it. After all, Dragon Goddess Yayo has been missing since the Immortal Monarch's era, which ended hundreds of millions of years ago. Eventually, this rumor reached a certain pair of ears.
What did you just say? I demand you repeat that.
The individual's voice trembled with disbelief, and his sharp golden eyes flickered with a barely contained excitement.
There's been a rumor going around claiming that dragon goddess Yayo has returned.
The man suddenly extended his arm to grasp the messenger around the neck and threatened.
If you dare mess with me, I'll shatter your soul. It's true. I wouldn't dare to lie to you, Great One. Tell me everything you know.
The Great One roared, his body trembling in excitement. Meanwhile, 2 years had quietly passed since Yuan took residence within the Azure Dragon clan's territory, dedicating himself to purging the remnants of the poison from their bloodline.
I'm done.
Yuan said as he lowered his arms.
Thank you.
Jiao Binglan, who was the last to be treated, quietly thanked him. Yuan met with Jiao Zhenhai and the others shortly afterward.
I have fulfilled our agreement. I don't even know how to thank you.
Jiao Zhenhai sighed.
No need.
Yuan shook his head before continuing.
Now then, it's your turn. Of course.
Jiao Zhenhai retrieved a silver key from his spatial ring and offered it to Yuan.
This is the key we received from the Holy Dragon Clan.
Yuan accepted the key and tossed it into his spatial ring.
Then I'll take my leave now. Are you sure you don't want to stay here a little longer?
Jiao Binglan asked him.
You should at least rest before you go.
Jiao Binglan's attitude toward Yuan had undergone a profound transformation over the past 2 years. Once, she had wished for nothing more than his departure, but now, the mere thought of him leaving was unbearable, stirring a quiet ache that was hard to ignore. Unfortunately, she knew they were not fated to be together.
Sorry, but I need to return to the Holy Dragon Clan as soon as possible. Then, at least let me escort you back.
She said.
If that's what you want.
Sometime later, after bidding farewell to Jiao Zhenhai and the rest of the Azure Dragon clan, Yuan began his journey back to the Holy Dragon clan escorted by Jiao Binglan and Jiao Xianbing. As they made their way back, they passed through the underwater city. 2 years ago, it had lain in ruins, destroyed by the invasion. Yet, in just 2 short years, not only had the Azure Dragon clan rebuilt it, they had refined and improved it, crafting a city even grander than before. Yuan gazed at the underwater city and smiled inwardly. Although this journey took over 2 years, I'd gained a lot. Not only did he acquire the heaven-chilling ice Phoenix's heart, which helped him complete his physique and obtain new abilities, but he'd even acquired 6 powerful treasures from the Azure Dragon clan. A month later, Yuan returned to the Dragon Spiral Mountain.
Do you think we'll see each other again?
Jiao Binglan asked him as they arrived at their destination.
I'm sure we'll cross paths again in the future.